Did I ever do that to you? No, I did not.
He was like, yes.
That would be a yes for the audience.
It was a definitive yes, too.
All right, everybody, welcome to Marketers Drinking Beer. It's really sort of our dream job. We just don't get paid for it. Sit around drinking beer.
Not yet.
About market. Not yet. That's right. We were saying if somebody wanted to sponsor our glassware, we could use that.
So what is this, season 2, episode?
Season 2, episode 2.
2.
2 and 2.
2 and 2.
How about that?
10 and 2.
Kind of exciting, right?
Teaching my daughter to drive. She got her license recently, and this is that 10 and 2 stuff, you know, and I just sat there white-knuckled the whole goddamn time. But she got it. She passed the test.
Is that good or bad?
It's good for me because I don't have to be in the car anymore.
Yeah. You'll get over the initial terror when she takes the car out. That'll be good. So anyway, welcome everybody. How's everybody doing? Good? We got Patrick Dorsey and Dave Martin, and I'm Paul Gannon. The team is back together again. They got the band back together again.
That's right.
And we're coming to you from our new studio.
Yeah.
At 1700 K Street.
This place is
beautiful out here.
It's
you can't
great.
See because
I
of
love
the
it.
reflections, but
I love being downtown.
Yeah, makes life a lot easier. And I think we're going to probably do a live show sometime in like the second week in June over in Arlington. Be sure to check the show notes for that. Come out and see us and say hi, and Patrick and Dave will sign autographs and stuff. Absolutely. So that's good, right?
Yeah.
Gotta give the public
Always
a
do
chance.
that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about our beer, huh? We have from right here in the District of Columbia, from Right Proper Brewing. The beer is called, where is it? Raised by Wolves.
That's
fierce.
It is fierce.
And it's not a fierce beer. It's a very nicely balanced beer, I think. Cheers.
It's a little hoppy, right?
Well, it's an IPA.
Cheers.
So you expect a little bit of hop in there.
This is an IPA though, because I've had so many IPAs that you took one sip and you're like, please Lord, don't make me ever drink that again.
Yeah, well, I think
this doesn't come close to this. Is really, I can drink this.
Yeah, I think for the longest time people were really competing on hops. How hoppy could they get? I know I had these arguments with my sons when they would get these like the Hoppinator and the hoppiest beer to come out of North Dakota or something like that. I'd be like, you're missing the point, dude. And I think it was when craft brewing was first getting going, ales are less expensive to produce than some other forms of beer. And so one way you stand out from the crowd is you make it really hoppy.
And it hides the imperfections in your poor brewing process, possibly, right?
Yeah, well,
because it's so bitter sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know that it hides things, but there's no way to distinguish yourself. Like one ale is like another, and so it took them a while to get to the point where they can really cut back on the hops and have other ways of distinguishing.
But aren't lagers, for example, some of the hardest beers to brew?
Yeah, lagers are harder.
Yeah.
Pilsners are hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. So, and ales are relatively easy. So that's why a lot of people got into them. But now we're seeing more and more. Right Proper, I know I've been down.
I'm going to get over there.
Yeah, it's really.
Where are
really
they again?
Good. They're on like S Street in Shaw. They're across the street or next to the. What are they across the street or next to the Howard Theater?
Oh, I can just Uber or Lyft.
Or your daughter can drive you.
Or my daughter can drive me.
Oh,
That's
designated driver.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, yeah, I'm working that. Don't you worry.
I always used to swear when my son Frank first was able to drive that I was looking forward to the day where I would call him and have him come pick up his old man at the pub. I never did that. Did I ever do that to you? No, I did not.
He was like, yes.
That would be a yes for the audience.
It was a definitive yes, too.
That's not true. Anyway, so you have that to look forward to.
Great.
Even though it didn't actually happen to me. So what's going on at work, guys?
We have a lot of things going on in Pexium. So I mentioned a little of this in episode 1, season 2, that we've had a lot of growth with the company, a lot of exciting things. And with that, there was some, if you will, learning curve or growing pains. One of the things from a marketing and sales department, but quickly was obvious through the rest of the company is, forced us to kind of take a step back and look at ourselves as who we are from a brand standpoint, and equally from a marketing culture standpoint. I look at Impexium's marketing department as really setting the tone and defining what our cultural and brand should be. That's a fairly obvious statement. whether it's brand, product, or even from an education content standpoint. And it really, as we grew and we were onboarding a lot of new employees, as well as looking at some of our initiatives for 2019, it really caused us to reflect on who we are, that culture, that brand. So we put ourselves through a number of exercises, which at first I was kind of annoyed because I thought, oh, but we should do this. But quickly saw the value in it, and just kind of asking ourselves very straightforward questions. What does Impexium do, right? And answering that question, and then asking ourselves, what is the benefit of that? And I read a white paper, or a business case where you had to ask yourself that 7 times, and you say, here's what we do, and what's the benefit of that? And then you'd ask yourself, it's almost like this line that you went down, what's the benefit of that? And you went down like 7 or 8 layers, or as far as you could go, to really pull out some of the core DNA of what your culture is and what you want to be. And then you would ask yourself, how might this look in practice, right? If we're trying to achieve some of these key themes, and you'd actually pull out examples of things you've done in the past well, or maybe that you could have done, or maybe you found even from a competitive standpoint or other brands that you respect.
So is this part of an onboarding process, kind of, or just
it started as part of the onboarding process when we wanted to kind of give them Association 101 and the Market 101 and Impexium 101. And as I was sitting down with the department heads, and they were saying, what do you think Impexium is? And I got 7 different answers, and I thought, oh no, I'm the marketing guy. That's a fail, because we all should be saying the same thing. We should be carrying the same flag, trying to fulfill the same values from a brand standpoint, from internal culture. So if we're all on different pages, our communication to new employees is going to be different. And we can't have the marketing and sales team saying, here's Impexium, this is why you want to partner with us. Right. And then they get to implementation or customer support, and they get a different message. Yeah, intentionally or otherwise, right? And so, and some of that I think is we just kind of lost that as we grew unintentionally, and it forced us as we grew to say, time out. We need to go back to some of those core values and make sure we're articulating it.
What you need to do, I think, is drop about $10,000 on a mission statement. Have somebody write a mission statement for you, and a value statement, right?
Mission, our vision, right? The elevator pitch, right? But I thought we certainly looked at that, but culturally it's got to be bigger, right? It's got to be the little things that you do that, and internally how you interact even with other departments, right? Which we're going to touch on later. From a growth standpoint, a lot of that's in your culture, and then it's certainly translated to like how your brand then is perceived.
How about you, Mr. Martin? What's going on?
What I've seen recently is, 10, 11 months into my new role, and one of the things I did initially was put more structure into the team that I'm working with, and that was mostly around strategy and doing quarterly roadmaps, and then campaign plans, creative briefs if we needed them, because there just wasn't, people were doing things, but it wasn't articulated and structured, right? And so been doing some strategy to make sure that we're articulating it and then executing on it more effectively. And when you force people to write stuff down and think it through, it can have a big impact, right? And then the other part was doing reporting and regular cadence of reporting, and having like a bi-weekly campaign review meeting where we're looking at KPIs on campaigns and how they're doing. Like, if you're not measuring, you're not marketing, right? It's about outcomes, not outputs, but what I found a little bit, and I'm coming back around to, is that some of it when you come in and put in some structure like that, it can be burdensome, right? And it can be burdensome on staff, and it can identify weaknesses within the organization. So if reporting becomes problematic and doing it and labor intensive and inefficient, right, then either you don't stop doing the reporting, you just got to figure out a better solution, because what we had was very manual. And when I was like, hey, let's just start doing some reporting, because we're not doing anything, right? Mm-hmm. But it can, when you come in and do changes like that, it can create stresses on staff because they're doing their job already, and then Dave's adding stuff on top of it, right? Putting structure around it, but which is the right thing to do, but you have to, like for me, it's being cognizant of the impact it can have, and identifying where the weaknesses are and addressing them, trying to find better ways to do reporting. Like our reporting was manual. We shift to a marketing automation platform with we got the souped up marketing, reporting module within Marketo, and it's going to change dramatically, like how long it takes us to like pull together some data, right? So,
Right.
that's
Yeah,
helpful.
we've been doing a lot of non-video work lately. We've been doing a lot of pay-per-click and some other stuff for folks. The one thing I did want to mention is that I'm beginning to change my mind about chat. You know, I'm beginning to get. It's been a while since I've gotten like a legitimate lead. I'm getting leads, but they're bad leads. I got a thing the other day. A guy wants me to help him market his soap product, and I'm also getting a lot of people going, hey, do you have any information about, you know, selling people on video? And which I guess is kind of a thing that I should do, but a lot of it's just like a waste of my time.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. I don't know, at the level that I'm using, Drift is what we use. I don't know that I can have any ability to, you know, go after a better customer. It's you know, chat. It's on my website, and
It's a free version that you're doing, right?
And people are using it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what to do with that.
So are chatbots dead? Is that the...
Well, chatbots were never alive for me.
Wait, you got some good leads. There was a while there you said
Yeah,
you
but
were
it
getting
wasn't a
some...
bot. It's just a chat feature.
Yeah.
My phone buzzes and I answer the question. Usually.
Because it was the free one. You couldn't put in
Right.
the automation and stuff
Right.
like that, yeah.
So, anyway. So speaking of things, maybe this is something we need to try. Facebook Messenger just announced that very shortly, they've got it in beta test right now, we'll be able to book appointments for bots. You know, you'll be able to actually book appointments for people through Facebook Messenger. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm doing that.
I don't trust Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, so...
Yeah, that's right, you're not.
Yep.
You're not on Facebook? What was it? Oh, you don't watch Game of Thrones?
That's right. And I'm not on Facebook.
Okay.
Instagram. I ditched Facebook a while ago, even though Facebook owns Instagram. So
Yeah.
I'm just... same organization,
You're a rebel.
same corrupt practices of privacy.
Right. So we wanted to talk a little bit about a new, or actually you had something else you wanted to talk about
On our
marketing
news?
channels to focus on.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I had
Talked
read
a little bit about that last
read
time.
a blog post recently by HubSpot about, they just said 5 marketing channels to focus on in 2019. They are word of mouth, podcasts, email, social media, and SEO. Not really surprising, right? Maybe the word of mouth might surprise, depending on what you're doing, that could surprise people. Word of mouth, and some of the data they had around it was only 4% of consumers believe marketers practice integrity. I love that. I should just blow that up and put it in my office on the wall.
One of the nicest things people have said about us.
Yes. So marketers need to rely on their customers' recommendations of their brand, right? So word of mouth is really huge, and that gets into your whole brand stuff that you've been talking about. Podcasts, according to a content format study conducted by Edison Research and Triton Digital, people aged 12 and older are listening to online audio content at unprecedented levels. For example, there are 14 million more weekly podcast listeners this year compared to last year.
Something.
So it's across the whole year, but that's weekly, right? So podcasts have been strong and continue to be strong. It doesn't mean everyone needs to run it because, doing a podcast is work, right? There's a lot of work involved. Email obviously is continued to be strong. It's not dead, right? It's continued to grow every year since 2012, and 91% of American internet users use email. Oh, it's a shocker. But email, no doubt. Social media, there are over 2.7 billion social media users across the globe today. So obviously that's huge. SEO, according to Google, 89% of B2B buyers and 81% of online shoppers use search engines to research new products and services. SEO is really critical if you're selling online or if you're just selling, period, right? I use a little tool called Pocket, which allows you to just, if you're on a blog post that you like, you just tap a little Google Chrome add-on, and it adds it to your Pocket account so you can come back and read it later on, just puts it in your Pocket. Mine is full of SEO articles that I need to get back to, and resources. I keep coming across stuff, and it's one of those areas, SEO and CRO are 2 big areas for me to focus on. But,
We've gone through a couple of gyrations on SEO lately. So first of all, we changed our persona to whom we're addressing most of the time. We upped that a bit to CMOs as opposed to, it's a small jump, as opposed to marketing managers or marketing directors, and so we've taken a bit of a jump there. But we're actually, Frank has masterminded this. Frank the Wonder Boy has masterminded out this whole thing where we're not writing small posts anymore. We're maintaining and growing these really big, authoritative, definitive posts.
blog posts.
Well, they're actually like resource fillers.
Yeah.
And instead of creating a new article like, hey, 4 things that CMOs can do, blah, 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 that goes into the big post. And it's been getting some really spectacular changes for us.
Yeah, because Google sees that, the length, because at one point it was like 300 to 500 words for a blog post.
These are
It's like the
10,000 words.
standard.
Yeah.
10,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It
Takes
sees
a
it
lot.
at longer, it's more authority, and therefore you're getting pushed up the search engine results page rankings.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So let's talk about the Spotify model. What's that all about?
Oh wow, this is interesting and challenging. As you guys are growing, you're kind of bumping up against some of the stuff. Read an article by a friend of mine at Impact Branding and Design, Bree Rangel, who I was a client of theirs at one point, but they do really excellent content. And she was writing an article about how they've been growing, but hitting growing pains and struggling, and looking at different models of how to organize their team. And so it's really, the Spotify model is about different ways to organize your teams within your organization. So typically, is like you were talking about, going from 40 to 50 or 30 to 50 in a short period of time, it puts pressures in different areas of the organization. You can hit bottlenecks. You can get overload on certain members of the team. It's slowing down the process. Maybe you're not as effective as generating as much revenue per employee as you were previously, and so you don't always need to necessarily throw more people at it. Sometimes you just need to consider a different structure of how you're doing it. And Spotify was doing agile marketing. They were doing Scrum. And probably using Jira. I don't remember if they said in this article that what they were using, but they were doing Scrum for their engineering team. And what the model talks about is that you have essentially teams that are comprised of cross-functional. So you could have in a team, you could have a salesperson, marketing person, operations, customer service, whatever. So you've got teams that are cross-functional. You can have multiple teams, and then they're part of a tribe. So you have this bigger tribe, and then you got these teams that are all cross-functional, and they're all able to solve end-to-end for the customer, right? So you're hitting every area of the organization. You got finance in there, I guess, as well, for example. And then in order to have it's not cross-functional. It's within the interfunctional, I guess.
Interfunctional, yeah.
That sounds odd, doesn't it? But so you could have chapters that go across that are all the marketing people.
Go across the tribe.
Yeah, they go across the tribe, right? So you got teams that are cross-functional, and then across each of the teams, you've got all the marketing people are in a chapter, right? And those chapters self-organize so that they can learn from each other across the different teams. And within the tribe. And then you have a guild, which can go cross-tribes. You have multiple tribes. You can go cross-tribe, cross-team, and cross-chapter. So they're all, and that can be self-organizing. You can come and go from guilds as you like. Sort of like it sounds like in the olden days of what a guild would be. And so it's just kind of an interesting. It's an interesting way to organize. But what Spotify does is that their leaders will say, here's the problem. And they'll give the problem to the teams and to the tribe and to the guilds. And they say, go solve the problem. They're not telling them what to do and how to go and do it and all that stuff. They're allowing them to organize, self-organize, and then solve the problems. And they even, within the organization, have areas where you have chapters and teams and tribes that are very intentional the way that they're structured, with whiteboards all over the place and common areas, but then areas where they can all talk to each other, be working close to each other. So I just thought it was a different different approach to
It sounds very structured, but yet fluid.
fluid.
But
Exactly.
the problem is that with big organizations, you try to structure everything, and you just essentially put up roadblocks to things. It becomes not here are the other people in the organization you should be working with. Like it becomes more of you're not allowed to do this until somebody else signs off on it or approves it. So it sounds much more fluid. I wonder I'd like to hear what the difference is. I'll have to read up on it between what they're doing there and just sort of agile marketing, because they're really like different things. Agile marketing is really about iteration and quickly going.
They built
Are
on Agile. They built on it. So they were doing Agile, but they were having, I don't remember the specifics of it, but they were running up against some of the limits of Agile, and probably because of the size of the organization too. But they are still doing that iterative approach, not the long drawn out types of software releases and that type of thing, but faster iterations. They found that by going to this model with the teams and the chapters and guilds, that they were able to get efficiencies and be faster and more effective with their software releases.
Interesting, because my first takeaway was applying it to like Impexium. I thought I can appreciate a lot of this cross-functional team where the executive team says, here's our problem, and I want you guys from your different seats within, probably different, interactions with the client or the product, solve it for me.
Yeah.
My fear would be, right, is I'm trying to think like what are the risks in this, is that like in any team environment, if there's a team of 5, you always have 2 people that are carrying the heavy load. And then as a growing organization, we would always be putting more work on the 2 or 3 people that are always taking the initiative, and the other person, maybe the extreme is that's not my job because I'm too busy doing the day-to-day stuff, or checking all my boxes as this manager. And so it would, in its ideal, it works. In its practical execution, we've almost created more like burden on the people that are always taking the initiative anyway. And I thought in the article, like it didn't necessarily address what are the risks of setting it up like that. They kind of addressed what we were trying to address from our pain point, but what were some of the risks that going forward, will it continue to scale? Mm-hmm. That was kind of how I left it. I liked it. I thought this could work. We have a new training initiative, right? And we really need multiple departments to really look at it and even bring customers in, probably like as a seat, if you will, bring them into the guild, to get their perspective. But we can't always have the same 3 people driving those, problem-solving exercises, because then we've just burdened, again, the top 20% of the company.
Did you get a sense?
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that so much, in the sense of like, if you got people that aren't very good, you gotta look at them and say, okay, you got one side, you've got, are they a good cultural fit? And over here you've got, so it's low to high, and then from low to high over here you got productivity, right? And so people that are low productivity, low culture fits are C players. Mm-hmm. You want to get rid of them, right?
Sure.
People that are high culture fits but low productivity, or somewhere they're more like a B players, you want to coach them up to become A players. A players are high productivity, high culture fit, right? And the worst ones are high productivity, low culture fit. At Aptify, we used to call them terrorists, and those are the people that you fire tomorrow, immediately. C players, you part with them when you as soon as you can.
And why is that? Because
the ones that are highly productive are very destructive to your culture.
Really productive.
They're the worst possible people that you have in your and you have worked with terrorists before. I've worked with them, and when you think of it that way, that's so true. They're very disruptive to an organization. They're nasty to people, but they're able to stay because they can hit their quotas, and they're a salesperson.
They work really hard.
Yeah, and they work really hard.
Get rid of her. She's
really hard. Yeah. But those are the people you get rid of first. So if you're looking at people in those quadrants like that, and you're celebrating your A's, you're coaching your B's, you're getting rid of C's, and you're getting rid of the D's as soon as possible, then you don't have as much.
That's a good point.
Much of that problem.
I've never looked at it in that A, B, C, D, but maybe that's a good way to, if you will.
Well, I think that's something that goes underneath what Spotify is doing.
Right. Oh yeah.
And it sounds like the same thing is true with Agile. if they're still doing sprints or scrumming around sprints and things like that, maybe it doesn't get mentioned. You could organize those things under this. Kind of interesting.
So after your second beer, will you mention the names of those terrorists that have to fire? We can go, oh, that guy.
I don't think they're there anymore. They're gone.
Yeah. Well,
Make sure we don't hire them. I think Aptify's gone, but we'll leave it at that.
Was Aptify a terrorist? Think of that. I'm going to get rid of it.
The brand still exists, I think. So
I think so too.
It does.
So, what do you guys think of this beer?
I was pleasantly surprised as a non-IPA drinker.
I could see like a nice summer day, like on the back porch, and I would crack this open, right? A nice. It's a little hoppy, right, but not enough that it's distracting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a strong, just enough.
I think it's really nicely balanced. I like it.
I agree. I'd like to drink some other beers.
Yeah.
Now I'm really curious with the Right
some
Proper.
great beers.
I heard it's a great place to eat
and
too.
great food. I once had I think it was a hamburger with bacon jam on it.
Wait a minute. Why?
Yeah.
Why are we not going there?
Yeah.
Why are they not a sponsor?
We'll do a show there.
Right.
My youngest son used to work with the guy who opened it, and I've met him a couple of times. I pitched him on some business a couple of years ago. Didn't work out well. But
Hey, go back to that.
Got to go back. Anyway, great stuff, guys. That was good. Our second show of the second season, 2 for 2. Boom, boom.
I love it.
Yeah?
You gonna go home and watch Game of Thrones?
No. I'm going to watch Red Sox, White Sox.
Nice.
Sorry.
I'm going to see how many more innings they have left to do with the Nationals and the Cardinals. So, seeing how that goes. We're in baseball season full swing. Anyway, that's that. Check the show notes, everybody. As I said, I think we're going to be doing a live performance in the second week in June. And so definitely check the show notes for that. And subscribe to our podcast if you haven't done that already. All sorts of great things you can do with us. And send us emails. If you have questions, we'll answer them on the show. Assuming that we have any idea how to answer them on the show.
I think that's content marketing, right?
How is that
Respond by
possible?
email, right?
Yeah. Something like that. All right, guys, thanks so much. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.